So welcome to the Deep Dive into Death. I'm your host, Malia Bayich, and you can find me here at www.findingrealm.com, and I'll be on Rumble, YouTube, and X. So please like, share, and subscribe. So welcome to the very first episode of the Deep Dive into Death. So I'm a certified death doula, a Reiki master teacher, massage therapist, and a ritual practitioner. And over the last couple of years, I have learned what it means to be a death doula. And so this show is going to be all about death education and grief support and helping people understand and navigate the world of death. Because one of the biggest problems is that nobody's talking about it. Which makes it really hard on our culture. We're like this death-phobic Western culture, and things need to change. And I know from my own experiences having a lot of death in my life recently that, things do need to change, and we need to be there for our culture. So throughout this show, I'm going to be interviewing people that are in the death industry of all different professions, and also just interviewing normal, regular people that have experienced death and want to share their story so that we can see what grief support looks like. Because that's a really big thing too, because not everybody can afford a counselor, or if anybody's gone through grief, it's not linear. There's no stages, it's waves. So when you need somebody, you don't have 2 months to wait to see if you can get into your next appointment. So what is a death doula? So I thought that this would be a really great way to start this show and share how a doula can be in your life and help support you through these experiences. So one of the main things that I'm most excited about in this is death education. And actually teaching people about death. What happens when you die? Can you expect? What are the things that you need to navigate through, and how to plan? So grief support is another big thing that a death doula can do, because grief doesn't happen at the end. Usually it comes into place when somebody has a diagnosis. And it's not just for the person that's dying, but also for the family around, because all kinds of shit comes up when somebody's dying, right? Traumas, things from the past. Depending on what somebody's personality is, it amplifies at the end of life. So if you're a real happy-go-lucky person, there's a good chance that you might end up amplifying being happy or having a good time. But if you're somebody who's angry and wants to avoid, that will get amplified too. So grief support for both somebody who's dying and for, family members and friends around is really important. And culturally, we need to open this up into a different avenue, because our culture throws death into the closet and nobody wants to talk about it. Whereas when we look at some Eastern cultures, they really, support people when they're dying, and they have rituals and beliefs, and it can create a much more beautiful experience. If you think about it, you're returning to the universe, whatever that means. So if we're planning for a wedding or a funeral or a baby being born, then we should also think about what does it mean when we're returning, when we are dying. So then a death doula can also help with death planning, kind of what I just talked about, and advanced care planning and ritual planning. So an advanced care plan is when we plan out when we no longer can take care of ourselves, our wishes in which we'd like to have. And it's a legal signing document so that whoever you've appointed to be your, medical representative in Canada is what that one would be called, make sure that your wishes are in place. But it's not just planning when you no longer can make a decision. From what I've started to recognize, bringing ritual planning into your death can be incredibly beautiful. Maybe and everybody's going to be a little different. So maybe it's candles, music, maybe it's certain prayers. Somebody might want the Bible to be read. Somebody just might want like silence. There's all different kinds of ways. Some people want to be alone too. Not everybody wants everybody there all the time, you know. So these versions of planning are really a good thing to sit and talk through with somebody, aka Death Doula, about what your wishes are and what this can look like, and how can we actually turn one of the most, how do I say this? How can we turn the greatest mystery of the entire world into an opportunity where we can still create some beauty and some magic? I know that's a little bit hopium in one angle, but I think it's really important. With grief, we can see the love. And another thing a Death Doula can do to help you is the legacy work. So what do you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered? Some people just don't want to be remembered, and other people have something that they want to share. So it could be video recordings, it could be some art, maybe making a painting, maybe it's helping you write some cards or letters to some people, or just mailing them out. Or maybe you want certain objects to be given to certain family members or friends, and you need help doing that. At the end of your life, things can become overwhelming, and so it's nice just to have that little bit of extra help in creating your legacy. And then there is vigil. So vigil is now when you're sitting in active dying and you can no longer be alone and you need some help. But often the help at the time of vigil is just sitting there being with somebody. Silence, meditation, reading, music, prayer is usually those parts of vigil. And so it's nice to plan a little bit of a rotation around it so that the people who are with the person who's dying, they don't have to be so overwhelmed. Personally, I think a schedule is really good, but we'll get into that. This is just a little introduction to start off the show. And during somebody's vigil, this would be a really nice spot where if somebody chose a ritual, to be added in there, where that would be a great time to do a ritual for somebody, right? So those are the main categories of what a Death Doula is and why you would hire somebody to be a Death Doula. A lot of what I've just mentioned, pretty much everything, could be done in person or online, except for the vigil. I mean, you could sit on a computer like this next to somebody, but that would be a little bit weird. To me, I'm a little bit person-to-person connection that ways. But when it just comes to grief support, death education, advanced care planning, or ritual planning, or helping somebody to do the ritual, all of those can be done via Zoom or online. It doesn't always have to be in person. So if you actually do want more information and want to hire me that way, you can email me at info@findingrealm.com. So I think that was a really great start. So I'm just learning all of this, and I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to hear what I have to say, and I really look forward to doing the next show with you. And then loading all these screens. Once again, you can find me on Rumble, YouTube, and X. You might see some of these videos on Facebook, but honestly, I'm really trying to move my social media platform over to X, because I don't really think that I can censor people when we're talking about grief support. It's just not my type, it's not my thing. So, if you want to start following me in that essence, move on over to X. We'll give it a try. So help me get monetized and move it on up. And I'm excited to see you next time.